Well, I'll end it there, and then you can tell us about some more policy and gov that you're interested in lately.
Yeah, so California, we talked a little bit about California. Let's talk a little bit about Texas, huh?
Yeehaw.
Yeehaw. Can I get a yeehaw, ladies and gentlemen?
Yeehaw.
So Inside Climate News recently reported that last month, the state of Texas, their General Land Office, a government agency that basically oversees the leasing of public lands, they awarded 6 leases to companies that want to perform carbon sequestration underneath the floor of the ocean in the Gulf of Mexico. So what's your first impression?
I need you to remind me how carbon sequestration works.
Okay.
I can't believe I even just said that without messing up saying sequestration.
Yeah, I know. I was worried about it too.
Yeah. Nailed it.
So carbon sequestration, this is something that you can just pull out of thin air using machines. You condense all this carbon sludge basically, and it functions like an injection well. Some oil and gas companies are using it to actually inject next to their fracking operation to push oil over to their to harvest the oil. It's hard to picture it, but you have an injection well here, you have a fracking rig here, you shoot the carbon sludge down into the earth, it pushes the oil to the production well, and you can get more oil that way.
Like an oil carnival ride.
Yeah.
Like a Ferris wheel of oil.
A big old Ferris wheel. like the strawberries at the Home Days Festival. Just spinning around and
smothered in oil.
Yeah.
Yum. I guess that's what we're doing when we wrap them in plastic. So.
Yeah. But anyways, the nice thing about the nice thing is we have to take carbon out of the environment. I'm pro carbon sequestration through the ways of like planting forests, investing in natural resources like coral reefs and things like that to pull carbon out of the air. The machines I'm less excited about because you displace that carbon and you shoot it underneath the earth, and that carbon will end up leaking into people's drinking wells or perhaps even messing up oil and gas operations. Like if it leaks into a production well, it might shut it down. It might cause issues. We don't really know because carbon sequestration isn't really like a proven science, but it's a science that's pushed by the oil and gas industry. So,
why do you think that is? Why do you think they are more pro carbon sequestration than other options?
Yeah. Well, I think carbon sequestration gives us the illusion that we are able to keep using fossil fuels or maybe prolong our use. It's really easy to sell people on the idea that like, oh, green energy is not ready yet. We're not ready to make the transition to green energy. We have to keep oil and gas pumping, so let's just offset our emissions rather than actually get off of fossil fuels.
Got it.
It's a big illusion, and it's just going to encourage more fracking. They're trying to do carbon sequestration in Ohio, and we already have over 200 injection wells in Ohio, which is insane. Like toxic radioactive waste just leaking into people's drinking wells. So that's my carbon sequestration take.
Okay.
I'm happy to fight anybody on it if they want to.
Okay. Anton is asking for a fight in the comments. Go for him. Don't come for me though, because I didn't ask for that.
So getting back to the General Land Office in Texas, they've set up these leases so that carbon sequestration can happen in the Gulf of Mexico underneath the ocean floor. They actually did award a lease back in 2021 for carbon sequestration off the Gulf of Mexico. But it's kind of picking up steam now. We're talking more about carbon sequestration, and it's kind of a practice that's being more used and more accepted, but it's also being refuted and not totally accepted by environmentalists. So on the topic of carbon sequestration, I find it really interesting that some Democrats are actually divided on the issue in Texas.
Okay, tell me why.
So I have to talk about a different government agency in Texas.
Okay.
We talked about the General Land Office, and
Yeah.
they oversee strictly like public leasing of lands. But there's actually another commission called the Texas Railroad Commission.
Oh, I remember this.
You do?
Yeah.
Tell me about it. Tell me about it.
I definitely need you to refresh my memory of what they actually do. But what I can tell you, it's not railroads.
Yeah, it's not railroads. Not anymore.
When I used to live in Texas and vote in Texas, I remember I would always read the League of Women Voters voter guide.
Yeah.
And it would say under the Railroad Commission, it would be like, just as a reminder, this is not about railroads. It's really like oil and gas, right?
Yeah, it's an energy regulation agency. And so they've been overseeing the carbon sequestration in the state for some time. And these representatives that are kind of like skeptical of carbon sequestration, they actually wrote to Michael Reagan, the head of EPA, federal EPA, and was kind of like, hey, the Railroad Commission has been like kind of out of whack sometimes. They like lift their own regulations and rules to favor oil and gas companies. So we want you to step in and just oversee and make sure that when we do go forward with some of these carbon sequestration projects, that they're not just lifting rules that are going to make communities sick and harm them and put people in danger. Other Democrats are being like, whatever the EPA says is fine, whatever they say in the review, it's cool, and talking about the state EPA. So there's kind of like that weird rift. Some people are just skeptical of the process. Other people are just like, yeah, we're going to roll with whatever EPA says. And in my experience working for an environmental justice organization, we've had to push EPA on a lot of different things. And there's some really...
Ohio EPA or national?
EPA, Ohio EPA. Buckeye Environmental Network actually wrote a petition to the federal EPA saying, hey, our state government is not cutting it. Like, they are out of whack. So you have to come in and make sure that our communities stay healthy, because they are like being negligent about permitting injection wells, and they are overseeing oil and gas operations that they don't have the capacity to do or even know how to keep up with.
When are you going to take over EPA so you can make all sorts of
want
better
that job.
Decisions? Come on.
No, I want to push politicians to do what they're supposed to do. I don't want to have to play a political role. Like, head of EPA, come on.
Come on.
What are you actually doing?
Well, you maybe could do something.
You're just Biden's, you're Biden's whatever,
You don't want to have to be in the political system. You want to work outside.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
I want to show up at your doorstep and be like, hey,
maybe you could
we're
change.
We're gonna tar and feather you if you don't do something,
Oh, see, I thought you were gonna be meeting with constituents, shaking hands,
that
but
too,
you went for a little different thing than I was expecting. You're right. Maybe
just
you shouldn't.
Facetious.
Maybe you shouldn't go into politics.
Yeah, I don't want to have to be diplomatic. Like, we have urgency and a crisis on our hands, and I think there is a place for diplomacy and working within the system, but it's not my shtick.
I understand. I'll remember that every time you tell me that I should go into politics.
You should. You'd be excellent.
Thank you very much.
I've only run one winning campaign, and it was for my seat for the Cuyahoga Soil and Water Conservation District.
For your seat?
My seat, yeah.
I didn't realize that you were on that.
Yeah, I'm an elected official in the state of Ohio.
Wow.
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I'm totally getting you off track here, but that was all news to me.
Yeah, so I'm not saying that EPA is like a conspiracy, but I'm saying that sometimes communities' voices aren't heard, and we need the federal government to step in to make sure that there's no funny business in our state politics.
Yeah.
That's what government's for, to play referee. So
yeah. I love that. Well, thanks so much for telling me all about carbon sequestration.
I'll do it literally any time, Shelby.
I knew I couldn't say it both times. Sequestration, both here in Ohio and in Texas, and hopefully helping me understand it and the audience understand it in other places too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's bad.
How about you let everybody know how they can stay up to date with us?
Absolutely. If you'd like to stay connected to us, be sure to follow us on Instagram and TikTok at One Planet Media. That's ONE1. And if you'd like to rewatch full episodes, check out our YouTube channel, All Things Green Show. You can find all of our sources from today's episode in our show notes.
We'll be back at the same time next week. Thank you for being a part of the global sustainability movement.